Hello, my name is Navy, and when I was younger, I never really made my own OCs, which is really weird now that I think about it. I mostly stuck to drawing fan art of my favorite characters and cute girls. And while I've tried in the past to create my own OCs, nothing really excited me. However, recently, about a year or so ago, something changed. And after a crazy long burnout from school, I got back into art and I somehow created 6 characters, and now they won't leave my head. So, over the course of the past year, I have been developing my own stories for them. And today I'm finally ready to talk about it. About everything, really. I'm definitely going to be ranting about a lot of different things, but honestly, if you just want a video to have in the background while you do something else, this is perfect for you. I'll also be adding a few drawings from my personal journal, so stay tuned for that. Either way, I'm super excited and I hope you guys are too. Let's get started. Now, the first OC I had to draw was obviously my girl Sloane. If you've been following any of my platforms, you'd quickly learn that she is my daughter, she is my baby girl, and she is my favorite child. She is quite literally the catalyst to this whole video because I just wanted to talk about her so bad. And I want you guys to know about her. Moving on, her first design, she was looking a little rough. You can definitely see design-wise that she was inspired by Arlecchino and God knows what else. Funny story, actually really embarrassing story for me, but hopefully funny for you guys. Sloane actually started off as an OC for the Dream SMP.
Say subs but without the B. Sus.
Specifically a ripoff of Technoblade. Holy lore drop. I probably shouldn't be admitting that to the internet, but you know what? To be cringe is to be free, and my god, I felt so free when I made her. Genuinely, that was probably the most fun I had with my art in a while. Now, despite all that, I am actually the biggest poser when it comes to the Dream SMP. To this day, I still have not watched a single live stream, and I know almost nothing about the lore because I refuse to watch however many long hour videos there are. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Looking back at it, it definitely felt like you had to be there to understand it. 2020 was just such a different time from now, especially with all the free time we had because of the pandemic. Anyways, with all that knowledge in your head now, you're probably wondering, but Navy, how on earth did you get roped into a fandom that's been dead for like 6 years? And to be quite frank with you, I have absolutely no idea. I was mostly interested in the fanon and how the fandom sort of built off the canon to create their own stories. It truly inspired me with the amount of creativity the community was able to express, especially since it all came from a block game. Jokes aside, I really love Minecraft. I still consume tons of media of it to this day. Minecraft is actually what delayed me from even starting the script because I just couldn't stop playing it. My ego truly believes that if I had a PC, I would be a Minecraft YouTuber instead.
This game's actually relaxing for some reason. But, hold on. What?
Besides that, I think that's enough context for Sloane's first design, so I'm gonna give a quick montage of her design evolution over the past year. And now we can finally talk about her present design. When I first made Sloane, I originally had her as a half-human, half-ram hybrid. And while she's still definitely a ram, the human aspect is completely gone now. This is because I saw an Undertale fan art and decided to take inspiration from it. I just thought, what if I turned Sloane into a complete animal? So that's what I did. Which Shout out to that artist. I absolutely love their artwork. I think it's so pretty. And yeah, I also did this because I felt it made her look more uncanny. She just looks sort of funky and odd, and I love it so much. I also changed her horns and made them significantly skinnier. I really changed a lot of things. I don't know how noticeable they are, but they're probably different looking. I will say, one of the things I do struggle with when it comes to drawing Sloane is definitely keeping her horns and general head consistent looking. It does feel like I fail sometimes, but considering the fact that I don't draw furries often, if not at all, I am still very proud of her and the way she looks. Another thing that changed was her coat cape thingy, especially the fur. I wanted to make her look super big and imposing because, in case you couldn't tell, Sloane is the villain. Her personality is very much cold and calculated. She is just generally a very serious person, and this is due to the fact that she is also a dictator. And now, after that big reveal, I think it's finally time I talk a bit about her story. So, Sloane was born and raised as royalty into a kingdom of ice. And from a very early age, she always adored her father, William. However, William was far too focused on his wife, Judith, who he wanted a son from in order to have what he considered the perfect heir to his throne. This obviously led to William neglecting and overlooking Sloane in favor of a son, which causes Sloane to believe that she is not worthy enough for her father's affection and starts to use this as a motivator to be basically the best at everything. So, around the age of 12, maybe a bit before, she starts to take her studies very seriously. She learns about kingdom affairs, how to negotiate, how to fight, how to sword fight, really anything she could get her hands on to use as validation. And by this time, the staff are starting to realize that Sloane might be a prodigy. But before the news can get to William, Judith is pregnant again with their second child. And that's where I'm ending it off for Sloane's section. The next OC I created was Atticus. His creation isn't as funny as Sloane's, but it's definitely still silly. So imagine me in the middle of my history class, bored out of my mind with a packet in front of me. The previous night I had found not really a new YouTuber, but new to me, Clown Pierce. And at that moment I thought, you know what? I've never drawn a jester before. And that's how Atticus was born. I swear, this is not intentional at all. But if you boiled down more than half of my OCs into their base inspirations, they'd just be Minecraft YouTubers. Back to Atticus, I think his design is pretty self-explanatory. There's so much yet so little going on with him compared to Sloane. I've tried a couple of times to change his design or add more detail, but I just kept going back to his first design. Despite his base inspiration being Clown Pierce, I don't think they look similar at all. In fact, I've actually had someone say he looks more like Puro from the Freak Circus. Which, let me tell you, I take offense to that. Like, no hate to the person at all, because I can totally see it too. But after that comment, I watched someone play it for myself, and I did not like it. I'm sorry, guys. Actually, my feelings are very mixed when it comes to the Freak Circus. I think the concept is very cool, which if you guys don't know, it's basically a horror dating sim with a bunch of clowns and a fairly decent story. But I personally didn't like the execution, especially since the two main guys in chapter 1, Puro and Harley Quinn, keep doing things without consent, like, ooh. I know they're supposed to be yanderes, which I do like, but the way they go about it is just not my thing. It's very freaky in both ways, and I'm not particularly interested in that content at all. But of course, if you like that, You go girl, you go get your man. I'm not here to yuck your yum. This is just my opinion, and I'm clearly not the target audience. Anyways, rant over. Sorry about that. Moving forward, if you remember Atticus's earlier design, you probably noticed a sketch of him without his mask. And that is because for a while I played with the idea of him having a face. But I ultimately decided that I wanted him to be some sort of faceless shadow shapeshifting monster. However, once again, I also had trouble with this idea because I wanted to work off of a pre-existing monster, but I couldn't find anything. Then I remembered, this is my story. I could just make this crap up. So that's exactly what I did. I still don't have a definite answer as to what he is, but I think that just adds to his air of mystery. Like, he can't be trusted at all, which, in all fairness, he shouldn't be. This is because he is the court jester specifically for Sloane. Or to Sloane, I don't know. That's right, this is a jester ex royalty, my weakness. Anyways, personality wise, Atticus is possibly the most obnoxious, yet respectful and devoted person Sloane has ever met. He's loud, cocky, and playful, basically the complete opposite of her. So you'd think she'd hate his guts and want him dead. And while you'd be half right, you would also be half wrong. Their relationship is ambiguous and very complicated. And despite everyone's better judgment, Sloane actually finds his antics quite endearing. She's sort of like the Bugs to his Lola from the Looney Tunes show. She needs crazy in order to feel normal, and I just love that for them. As to how they met, this is where I'll be picking up Sloane's story again. So, after about 8 months of being pregnant, Judith suddenly goes into labor prematurely. To put it shortly, Judith and the baby, which everyone later finds out was in fact a boy, die during childbirth. This sends William into a spiral of grief and rage. Later that day, as the two sit in silence at the dinner table, Sloane finally builds up the courage to try to talk to her father. However, instead of accepting her attempts at comfort, he decides right then and there that everything was her fault. That if she was just born a boy, his wife would still be alive. He then stands up and grabs a candle from the table, taking large strides towards her. She tries to get away, but it's already too late. He's already closed the gap. Without a second thought, William grabs her face and douses the right side with the hot wax, leaving a third-degree burn behind. She runs away and hides in a kitchen, hugging her knees and crying in the dark. A few minutes pass. Then, out of nowhere, a servant boy appears in front of her and crouches down to her level. "Why are you crying?" he says. Sloane jumps back and stares at him. But it's too dark, her vision's too blurry from the tears, and her face is still stinging from the burn. She can't seem to make out any of his facial features for the life of her. Still, eventually, they exchange names, and she tells him everything. Apparently, the boy's name was Atticus, and soon he finds himself comforting her. Ever since that day, the boy vowed to remain by her side and protect her no matter what, which included becoming her court jester. Maybe that's why she tolerates him so much, but she'd never admit that. And that is the origin story as to how Sloane and Atticus became inseparable. We're finally at the halfway point, and the third OC I made was Corbin. Chronologically, he's actually the fourth OC I made to this story, but I figured the video would flow better if I talked about him first, so that's what I'm doing. Going forward, these OCs are going to be significantly less fleshed out as I clearly have favorites. So hopefully you guys can forgive me. To be honest, I don't even know how I made Corbin. I don't think there's anything interesting about his creation, besides the fact that I needed a protagonist and I watched a bit of Minitech. Guys, I'm sensing a pattern, but I don't know. Like the others, I was obviously inspired by his Minecraft skin, and you can clearly see the resemblance. And for a while, I was happy with it. Then the great redesign hit and I started to hate it. Not really, I'm actually still deeply attached to this design, but I just hate how similar he looks to Minitech because while Corbin is a ripoff, I didn't want him to actually look like a ripoff. Another reason I wanted to change his original design was because in the story, he's supposed to be a runaway prince. But I don't think running away in a suit is exactly ideal. I don't know. Maybe it could be an alternative outfit if I actually made this a story. Either way, it had to go. Out of all my OCs, Corbin was definitely the one that had the most drastic redesign. However, one thing that remained was his bird creature motif. Yeah, that was mostly for aesthetics. Especially since everyone else had some sort of motif, I didn't want the protagonist to look boring in comparison. This drawing is actually my second attempt at his redesign, and while I did like my first attempt with the teal, green, and orange color scheme, I was just so hung up on the idea of him having a red-purple color scheme that I couldn't be happy with having this be his official design. And if you know anything about me, I am the most laziest person alive. So the fact I did another drawing instead of just calling it a day means this was serious. Anyways, over time, I do expect these designs and stories to change, but for now, these will do. Speaking of his design, for my second go at it, I really wanted to exaggerate some aspects, such as his pants, wings, and cloak thingy. I thought it would just add to his general silhouette and make him look more bulky. Unfortunately, I did get rid of his bird feet, and I have no real explanation for that besides the fact that I liked the heels. I also added a braid because I thought it was fun and made him look more like a pretty boy. Which, by the way, shout out to my great friend Stephanie. She helped me out so much when it came to brainstorming his second redesign. Enough about his design, let's talk about his personality. As stated previously, he's a prince of a kingdom I cannot be bothered to name right now, and is the eldest amongst his siblings. He's kind and respectful, but also quiet and sheltered. I guess you could say he's shy, and because of that, he comes off as arrogant sometimes. I'd say he's inspired by Shadow the Hedgehog, so if you see some similarities, that's intentional. Now, as to how he ties into the story, to put it shortly, Sloane has a kingdom and Corbin's father has a kingdom, but Sloane is an evil dictator and wants to take over said kingdom. Typical dictator stuff, I don't know. But Corbin's father doesn't want to give up his kingdom. So, what if they just went to war? There's obviously more than what I just said right now. I just haven't had time to properly think about it and write it down somewhere. Either way, after Sloane declares war on Corbin's kingdom, he decides that he needs to confront her head on. He knows his parents are too old to defend themselves, so he sets off on his amazing quest to her snowy nation in hopes that maybe somewhere in her heart there is something to be reasoned with. And that is Corbin. He was an absolute menace to design. The fourth OC I made was my girl, Ophelia. She is also my baby girl and is just so cuteness. When I made her, I was on social media just minding my own business when I was randomly reminded of the song La Seine from A Monster in Paris. Which, by the way, banger movie, you should definitely go watch it right after this video. I listened to the French and English version a couple of times and just started thinking, man, I really need to make an OC inspired by this song. And Jumper Who? Okay, that is the last Minecraft YouTuber going forward, I swear. But yeah, that day, right at that moment, I decided that drawing was far more important than sleeping. And then I proceeded to stay up until 5 a.m. I don't regret a thing. Eventually, I did redraw her. Not much changed. It was really just to clean up her first design. As for her inspiration look-wise, she didn't really have one. I kinda just wanted her to look like a dancer slash performer because in her original story, she was a bard that traveled and performed in taverns, singing songs and telling stories. Then the great redesign hit again and I changed her completely. Her outfit did a complete 180 from the spring-summer look to a winter look. That's because around the same time I started playing Deltarune and I really liked Noelle's design. So I guess you could say she was inspired by Noelle. However, for her personality, she was inspired by Amy Rose, which means she's really bubbly, energetic, and sort of mischievous. And when it comes to disagreements, she tends to get very hot-headed easily. As for how she's connected to Corbin, when he runs away from his kingdom, he meets a knight who I won't name yet. And after some serious convincing, the knight lets him go and instead decides to tag along in order to keep him safe. In the world building, I guess, I would imagine that Corbin's kingdom is located in a hotter climate. It's very green and very full of life compared to Sloane's region, which is basically the Minecraft Taiga biome. It's silly, but it works. Either way, I wanted a midsection that was meant to be the transition from hot to cold, and that is where Ophelia resides, more so towards the cold area. Her mother is the proud owner of a tavern slash rest place for travelers, and as the daughter of the owner, she works and performs there regularly. By this time, they'd already be halfway on their journey, but due to some miscalculations and horrible luck, they get caught in a snowstorm. The sun had already set and they needed a place to rest for the night. As things started to look desperate, they spotted something in the distance. Though it was hard to make out, there were people and lights. The two made their way towards civilization and were surprised to see that there was a tavern in basically the middle of nowhere. They enter the building and are immediately greeted by Ophelia, who gets them a seat. And that's all I really have written down for now. I haven't figured out yet how or why Ophelia joins the team, but she definitely does. I would talk about her dynamic with the other two, Corbin and the Knight, but I don't want to reveal the Knight yet, so I'll just talk about her relationship with Corbin. They are definitely my second favorite ship, as if these aren't my own characters. Their dynamic is completely inspired by Shad Amy, so as you'd expect, Ophelia is the cheerful one, while Corbin is very standoffish. I would imagine that as their story progresses, she is able to break down his walls and really help him appreciate himself. Overall, these two are really cute together, and I love them so much. The fifth OC I drew was Kyra, who is the knight I mentioned earlier. So when I first made her, there was practically no thought in my head besides a tiger woman with gauntlets. And bam, that's how she was born. The knight thing came in a bit later because I just thought it would look cool with her, and it would make it easier for me to connect her to Corbin. Her first design isn't that different from the present one. In fact, I just altered a few things and added some details. One of the things I thought of and wanted to keep consistent throughout her design was a bunch of diamonds on her armor. And then when I colored in later, the red just looks so nice against the white. I also tried to make her look more, like a tiger. So I added a tail, adjusted her ears a bit, and put a pattern on her head because I noticed the patterns were lacking a lot. Before, she just sort of looked like a cat girl, and I did not like that at all. Another thing I did was match her scarf cape thingy to Corbin's, since they're from the same place, and she literally works under him. That's another reason as to why I was so hung up on Corbin having a red color scheme, because I wanted him to be connected visually to Kyra. Either way, it all worked out in the end, and I'm happy with the final result. For her personality, I would definitely say that she takes after Susie from Deltarune. So she's fierce, charming, and brave, but also harsh at times. Maybe even misunderstood. I'd like to imagine that she presents herself as pretty aloof on the outside, but underneath all that, she's actually a very curious person. As for her story, Kyra is a knight under Corbin's father and does the night shift regularly. And on that fateful night when Corbin decides to run away, he accidentally bumps into Kyra. Kyra is immediately on guard and tells him that she's going to have to report him to the king, or else she'd lose her job. Corbin panics, and just about everything starts to spill out. How Sloane wants to start a war, how his parents are too weak to fight, and how he feels like he's the only one who can stop her. Kyra listens, and after a few good seconds of thinking, she decides to let him go, but only if she tags along to protect him. He agrees, and together they leave the kingdom for real. But if she had to be honest with herself, protecting the prince wasn't her only motive. You see, she has a younger sister who she loves dearly, and after learning about Sloane's plan, she realizes that there are far worse things she could lose than just her job. In fact, out of everyone in the trio, Kyra truly believes that the only way they can stop Sloane is if they kill her. The others are far too naive to understand. Maybe one day they'll prove her wrong, but for now, she's keeping this secret to herself. Now, despite being relatively close in age to Corbin, with Kyra only being a few years older, in the beginning of the journey, she found him very annoying. Especially since he grew up in the castle, he probably never struggled in his life. In her eyes, she just saw him as a spoiled prince. He was never rude to her for her to get this reaction, but they definitely had their moments. If anything, they bickered like siblings. Of course, over time, as both parties started to open up about themselves, they got along. As for Ophelia, she is an angel, she has no enemies, and she can do no harm. Right off the bat, the two immediately got along, and Ophelia would actually use this fact to tease Corbin. Fun fact, when I first sketched Kyra and the others, they were originally in a band together, but over time that obviously changed. And I think that's about it when it comes to Kyra. Out of everyone, I think she is the most pleasing visually. The last OC I drew was Belle. Her section is probably going to be the shortest out of all of the others, since she was the last character I ever made for this story. Now, when I first made Belle, I didn't really have a clear idea as to what I wanted her to be. I knew I wanted her to be blue, both literally and figuratively. I also wanted her to be a maid for Sloane. But when it came to making Belle, I knew I wanted one thing, for sure, more than anything else in the world. I wanted Yuri. 1, 2, 3, I want Yuri. So one day I drew a quick sketch of a unicorn girl, which was originally an owl, and out came Belle. As for her personality and story, I'm not so sure. But I have been brainstorming a couple of ideas, so I could definitely give you guys an idea as to what I've come up with. Belle was born into poverty in Sloane's kingdom. Ever since she was little, her family had always struggled to get by. This caused her to grow up quite timid and shy. Her family wasn't bad per se, but they were definitely more focused on trying to survive rather than attending to Belle's other needs. And by the time she was 17, she already had to get a job to provide for her family. One day, when she comes home from work, she finds her family dead. Most likely from a burglary or something. Just something went wrong. She freezes like a deer in headlights, unsure of what to do. Then she hears a loud thud from upstairs. The intruders must still be inside. This seems to shake Belle out of her dazed state, and she runs away. Far away. As far as her legs could take her. Eventually, the adrenaline runs off and she collapses on an empty street near the castle. After who knows how long, a certain princess stumbles upon her. It was Sloane, who was 19 at the time. Seeing this poor girl laying on the street, cold, weak, and barely conscious, she decides to help her. But not without a cost, of course. Everything is transactional when it comes to Sloane. She kneels down beside the girl and gives her an ultimatum. Work under her as a servant, where she'd be given food, shelter, and pay, or stay here on the road. Sensing that she was at her wit's end, Belle agrees. And so that is the story of how Belle became a maid for Sloane. Now, as to how she's so Yuri-ful, I decided to pair her up with Kyra. I just thought they would be the cutest duo ever, and also sort of doomed since they'd be on opposite sides of the war. I'd imagine that the way they'd meet would be during a mission where Corbin and the gang try to infiltrate Sloane's castle. And while they're walking through the halls, something happens that makes them split up. Like, really split up. Kyra finds herself alone and lost in a more secluded area of the castle halls. Suddenly, while she's walking, Belle steps through a door and spots her. She freaks out and tries to alert the guards for help, but Kyra is simply too fast and she tackles her back into the room. Her hand comes up to cover Belle's mouth and they land on the floor. Finally, after a few minutes of silence, Kyra turns to the servant girl and takes a good look at her. Belle stares back and starts to feel a little nervous, but not nervous in the way she should be feeling when an intruder walks into your castle. No, this was something else, but she didn't know what yet. Let's be honest here, Belle. We know why. Now, despite acting cool all the time, when it comes to love and all that, Kyra is inexperienced, and Belle isn't any better either. I like to imagine that they'd both be very shy if they ever went on a first date. It's just so funny to think about. Either way, the two talk. Kyra explains everything to Belle, and somehow she gets her on their side. You see, I want to use Belle as sort of like a mole rat, so she tells the gang information and helps them navigate throughout the castle. However, deep down, Belle is torn. Should she really help Kyra and the others, or stay loyal to Sloane? I mean, Sloane has helped her out so much in her life, but she also can't just stand by and let a war start. And that's all I really have in store for Belle. There's still a lot of things I need to work on when it comes to developing their stories, but for now, I'm really proud, especially since I've never worked on such a big project like this before. I'm still thinking about how I would want to tell this story. I remember at some point I wanted to make this a game, but I don't exactly have the resources or the knowledge to make said game. maybe in the future I could work on that. Who knows? And now we're in the outro. Here they are, all lined up in their final forms. You can really see how much I've improved compared to the first time I tried to make this video. They've changed so much in just a year, yet they're still the same characters I fell in love with. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and love these OCs just as much as I do. I would love to read all your thoughts about them in the comments below, so please don't feel shy to share them. I seriously love reading comments. I mention it in practically all my videos, even though there's only like 4 now. It's really the highlight of my day when it comes to making these. And I don't like to say this, but I hope you guys like and subscribe. This took a lot of effort, and I don't know, I don't want to be employed anytime soon. My CapCut was practically on fire, and I almost quit like 5 times. Okay, either way, I'm Navy, and thank you guys for watching. Bye!